I'm so happy and honored to have Dr. Trimal with us today in our podcast Teen to 30s. So, we are starting with our series called The Conscious Edit. Now, my first question is how to process emotions.
Okay. Firstly, thank you for having me. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be here. Um, I think this is a very good question as to how to process emotions. I feel like before we get into processing, I'd like to mention that emotions are not good or bad. All emotions are welcome. And emotions need to be processed in the way of having to deal with them better as opposed to getting rid of them. Because it's not that we don't want emotions, we want to feel them, we want to kind of help navigate through those in a healthy way, because emotions are nothing but energy, and
Yes.
if we don't end up letting them go or let them navigate properly, they can get stuck, and that
Okay.
can lead to a lot of complications. So processing is a healthier way of dealing with emotions. So every emotion that we feel ends up peaking within 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
It doesn't last more than 90 seconds usually, and I'm saying 120 seconds just to be on the safer side. And it peaks in that time for sure. One of the things that so if you actually ride that wave of 120 seconds, usually the emotion's intensity will always come down. If you name that emotion in that time, that intensity will be further reduced within that 120 seconds
Okay.
or that 90 seconds. So the first thing to do when we talk about processing emotions is to name that emotion.
Okay.
So you pause, you reflect, you ask yourself what you're feeling, and then you name it. Now sometimes you could be feeling an emotion which is supposedly not a good emotion. So
Yeah.
again, like I said, no emotion is good or bad. There are only good emotions, so to speak, because there's no judgment, so we don't have to judge that. Like I could be feeling jealous, and that could be a so-called negative emotion. So the minute I name it and I tell myself that, hey, you know what, I just realized that I'm feeling jealous of XYZ, and then I'm going to start judging and I'm going to go on to that loop. So then I've stopped processing my emotions. So we're going to do this without judging.
Okay.
And once we understand that, okay, chalo, we've done the whole pause, reflect, name the emotion, we're also naming it without judgment. And then we're going to be like, okay, why did this emotion come up? So we're going to ask ourselves this question curiously, again, without judgment. I could feel like, hey, I'm feeling jealous of XYZ because she has what I don't have, for example. So again, we're going to answer that question also non-judgmentally, and we're going to be okay with whatever answers come up. So once you know the why, we've added meaning to our emotion,
Yeah.
and then you will let yourself express
True.
that emotion. So you're sitting through it, asking these questions, and then expression can be in the form of either writing, speaking it out, or going for a walk. And the reason we say that we should express emotions is because, again, it's energy. So you want it to be removed out of your body in a kinetic form.
Okay.
When we go back to science from 8th standard,
Yeah. Yeah.
there is potential energy and kinetic energy. So we're releasing it through kinetic energy. Hence, writing is one form of it. Playing a sport, going for a walk, all of those things can be great ways of expressing. And usually, because you're okay to feel that emotion and understand the why of the emotion, your mind or your body works through this within itself at a very subconscious level, and it releases the emotion. But to be sure, what we can do is just do a small checkup by closing your eyes and just going through your body parts consciously to see if you're feeling the emotion anywhere.
Okay.
So it doesn't get stuck. And then you can again say you've written it down, and then you just want to do a check-in with yourself and be like, okay, am I feeling it anywhere in my body? Like say like when I feel anxious, I
Yeah.
feel a heaviness in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
chest. And I know this.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I've just said that, okay, I'm feeling anxious, I may not feel the heaviness. But a lot of times when I've done the check-in, I've realized that, wait, you know what, my hands and my palms particularly get cold,
Yeah.
and I start sweating. So I was sweating when I walked in. So I know that I was anxious at some point. So something like that. So you do that check-in again, reflect, pause, do the check-in, and then again write it or name it. And that kind of helps in processing.
Okay.
So so processing is just nothing but identifying the emotion, giving the meaning, and then releasing it,
Okay.
as opposed to ruminating, which is just like going over the same thought over and over again. That's overthinking,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's not helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to know, understanding how to process emotion, because nobody has ever taught this. And be it, like happy incident or sad incident, it's important to channelize, what we feel within, and then how you said, like, just give the 120 seconds, and, you would be, like the frequency would be little less, and then
The intensity will be
would be
less.
little
Yes.
less, yes.
Yes.
And then to, again, if you're feeling it too much, then you can release it through various mediums.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for making us understand on how to process emotions. My next question would be, youngsters face relationship breakup often. So nobody has ever taught us how to let go and move on from relationships. So please guide us on that.
Okay. That's a really good question. And I think it's not just youngsters. I feel like breakups happen at any age.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One of the first things I would recommend doing is, again, accepting that this has happened. I feel like for most people that are going in an ongoing relationship, just the fact that it's over can take a really long time. So there is a lot of back and forth that happens in like, hey, you know what if we can give this a chance? Or like-
Chasing.
yeah, there's a lot of chasing from both ends, right? Like even though you know that, hey, this is not working out for a while, it's still scary to throw in the towel on the relationship, because we're also you've invested so
a
much,
lot,
and
yeah.
it starts becoming comfortable after a
Yeah.
point, right? So
Yeah.
not being in that relationship is what's difficult.
Yeah.
So at one point, the towel has to be thrown in, and I would say that is accepting that, hey, the relationship is over, and that can feel devastating, and it can be heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and all of that. And when all of that happens, feel that. It's okay to feel that. You are allowed to have a bad days, and like there is no timeline to this. Every individual processes this differently. So you do you, take your own time to do this. But it's very important that we non-judgmentally allow ourselves to feel it, because a lot of times we also end up putting that pressure
Yeah,
that, hey,
yeah.
you know what? 4 din ho gaye. I
Yeah.
should now start doing things.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. You can still feel bad, or it could be a month or longer or whatever. So that's one of the first things. Accepting that this has happened, and then mourning the loss of the relationship, or mourning the loss of the person also. Like that person filled a void, played a role in your life. So you're allowed to mourn the loss of that. You may have built up things like, hey, you know what, I saw ourselves kind of going to college together, or getting married, or having kids if it was an adult. But so you're allowed to mourn that too. Mourn the non-realistic,
dreams that
the
you
dreams.
had.
Yes, that. So take your time in mourning that. I would recommend writing it down, because it's a good way to consolidate what all you're feeling, and then giving yourself time to process it like the way we process emotions. Another step is, especially for breakups, is creating a distance from your ex. so to
Physical
speak.
distance and
I don't mean just physical distance. Physical
Mental.
distance, yes, but I also mean a social media distance.
It's very
So
difficult.
block your ex. Do not WhatsApp them. Do not
Stalk.
No, do not. Unfollow them on Instagram. Do not follow them. Do not, like, it's very tempting to keep stalking them.
Yeah.
Either on WhatsApp with the statuses, like it's gotten a lot more easier to do that. With Instagram, with the number of fake profiles each one has.
Asking mutuals.
Absolutely, all of that. So create that distance, and I know at that point of time that's going to be one of the hardest steps you
Yeah.
take. But trust me, in that moment, it's one of the most significant steps that one can take in order to move on. Because, like I was saying, it's very comfortable. So that's always going to be your weakness. So you will keep coming back when things get tough. But the day you decide that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna
Cut this.
cut the cord. That's what I mean by that. So that's an important step. And at the same time, start doing things for yourself, because it's going to be if you're in a relationship for a longer time, and say if you're in college and you have this relationship, y'all may have the same friends.
Yeah.
So that could be a constant reminder too. You could have a lot of memories together, especially in the campus or in certain cafes, restaurants that you would be
Yeah.
going together. So start doing things for yourself and pick a different routine for yourself. Like you may want to distance yourself from the mutual friends that are close to both of you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't speak to them, but don't
Share. Yeah.
no, socialize with them at your own time,
Yeah.
not
But-
together at
yeah,
all
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Like the two people don't need to be at the same party.
Yes.
It's okay to take a break for a couple of weeks or a few months.
Yeah. Till you
If he's
heal.
invited, don't
Yeah.
go. If
Yeah.
you're invited, he or she. I mean, I was putting myself in that
Yeah,
position.
yeah.
So if that person is invited, avoid it for a little bit until you're sure that, okay, you know what, there's no hook for you left. And in the meantime, start doing things for yourself. Pick out a new routine. Go to different places. Explore new restaurants, cafes. Go for a walk at a different place so that the memories are not associated.
Yeah, yeah.
For a lot of people, songs remind them of a
Yes.
person. So listen to another playlist at that point in time. That helps in moving on a little easier. So that, and especially for since this podcast is for teens to 30s, please be aware of rebounds. Now I'm not coming here from a moralistic, judgmental point of view. I'm just saying it's very easy to get into flings because there is a void.
Yeah.
Now, again,
Quick
each one
fix,
to their
yeah.
own.
Yeah.
Flings are nothing but quick fixes.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
if that's what you're looking for, make sure you're making an informed choice. So
Yeah.
ask yourself, what is it that this particular situationship or fling is bringing out in me? Is it just a void that it's filling? And am I okay to do that? Because that's a trap.
Yeah.
Because you're not really helping yourself at that point in time. You're just quick fixing it and, covering a blanket on the wound.
Yeah.
Instead of actually letting the wound heal. So that's, I think, the only thing that I would ask people to be careful of. And last but not the least, the minute you start building stuff for yourself, that helps. And another thing that helps in building stuff for yourself is by being your own cheerleader. When we're in a relationship, we somewhere start depending on our partners to kind of be our cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, even when you're in a relationship, to be your own cheerleader, but especially when you've just broken up, be your own cheerleader. I think that's very important to do. And I feel like there are small ways to know whether you've really moved on or not. You realize that, hey, you know what, the person does not affect me anymore. I'm willing to forgive them. I don't feel anything when I think of them. When we're socializing together, it may not bother me as much. So all of those are small cues that tell you that, hey, you've actually just moved on.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm sure students or the kids who would say that easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. I agree with
Yeah,
you.
It's, the love that leaves the vacuum. It's
Absolutely.
too huge to deal with. So the further question that I would have on the same radius is how to build that inner stability wherein you do not shiver, feet don't get frozen, your blood doesn't boil while you are dealing with your moving on phase.
Those things will happen. Those things are bound to happen. They're emotions.
Yeah.
You are going to feel angry. You're going to have days wherein you're just devastated. So you might just feel like, I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Or like, I might be feeling anxious about, I don't know what to do with my life at this point. And I can't imagine myself without this person. But the point is also to realize that, hey, you know what? You are your own individual being.
Yeah.
You are not, like, nobody can be your oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are fully capable. You were birthed single-handedly
Yeah.
and you manage life so far single-handedly. You're going to be fine. This is a phase. You can take as much time as you want, but you are going to get through this.
Yeah.
And you will.
Yeah. I remember once you said in our earlier conversation that, if you can breathe by your own self, then you can handle anything by your own self.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
one
that's
step at
true.
a time.
One step at a time. I agree.
Yeah. So thank you so very much for, guiding us on how to process emotion, how to deal with breakup, how to build that inner stability. So now I would ask you a different segment, the question with that. Okay, so every child has, somewhere in the childhood, directly or indirectly, faced certain traumas. So in such scenarios, how to do self-parenting?
Okay, that's a lovely question, and I like the term self-parenting because that comes from a place of no blame towards the parents. most individuals end up carrying trauma in their childhood between the year 0 to 7. I think that's the time when most of these traumas, the seeds of traumas are formed, or at least embedded in the child, and that further grows. So self-parenting is actually a therapeutic process of giving that nurturance, the guidance, and meeting all your needs that the child in you did not receive, or these needs that were not fulfilled for that child. So it basically, there's an inner child in us and an inner parent in us.
Yeah.
So it's fostering a healthy relationship between that inner child and that inner parent, wherein you end up being your own caregiver in a very loving, compassionate, respectful ways. It also talks about setting boundaries, healthy boundaries for yourself, so that you can protect yourself from getting hurt further.
Yeah.
So I think that's the idea of self-parenting. And it starts with you identifying first your inner child and your inner parent. So you realize what your unmet needs are, you're identifying them. You're realizing what all you feel not good about when it comes to yourself, and being compassionate. So usually we are our worst critics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negative self-talk that happens within our heads very unconsciously. So it's identifying that and then being compassionate towards yourself, towards those negative self-talk about your own self, or those self-critiquing thoughts that keep happening. So putting an end to that and showing compassion to yourself. And also drawing boundaries. I think it's very important for each individual to draw healthy boundaries where they actually end up rooting for themselves and prioritize themselves. When it comes to prioritizing ourselves, all of us shy away a little bit from taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's about setting that boundary that, hey, you know what, this is all I can do today and I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Even if people around me do not like it. I understand it, but I do not have the capacity in me to stretch, and today I'm going to choose me. So I will not. Even if I disappoint other people, I can talk to them about it. And with some people, they can still be disappointed, and I will be okay with that.
Yeah.
I will deal with the consequences of that.
Okay, so can you please give us that, inner child and inner parent dialogue? Like, for example, I'm Neha. So how my inner child would talk to my inner parent? Usually I have seen, teenagers dealing with, the parents who are quite strict. So why you are doing this, and, the dominance. So any child who would have had, parents who would have had dominance on them, then they would carry certain trauma in their, when they are teenagers or when they are early 30s. So how a child who would have had...
Is the parent a dominating parent?
Yeah.
So we're talking about dominating. That is in the clinical sense, not just disciplining.
No.
We're talking about domination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm the head of the house and
so what has
everything
happened
would
to
run...
the child?
The scariness or the anxiety, or is it right, is it wrong, like, the constant guilt if you are doing something, like it's your boundaries.
Self-doubt.
Yeah, self-doubt.
In the child.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this point, it's a great this thing. So we're dealing with a scenario where the child feels a lot of, is doubting himself or herself a lot, and is feeling inconfident because of their own traumas.
Yeah.
Now here you've mentioned that it's the father who's dominating.
Yeah.
So the first step is to accept that, hey, my father is the way he is, and that is the way he chooses to be. And yes, that can have an effect on, that has had an effect on me, but that was my doing. I got influenced. It happened at a younger age where I got influenced, but now I'm out of that, so I forgive him, or at least if I'm not ready to forgiving him, then I'm willing to forgive him, or I at least don't place blame there.
Yeah.
And I'm taking control of my own life in my hands now that I understand the concepts. And I realize that, hey, you know what, I'm suffering from self-doubt or inconfidence. What can I do that will make me feel a little more confident, or doubt myself a little more? A little less, doubt myself a little less. So say for example, I have to go buy a dress or buy an outfit and I don't feel comfortable buying an outfit. I'm still going to go to the store and pick out an outfit that I like without asking another person.
Yeah.
that's going to foster some sort of confidence in me to be able to do a task which otherwise I would not have been able to do, or if that is a scenario. So any such scenarios that can come up which can foster confidence in you doing that task that you otherwise feel inconfident about. Say I could feel inconfident in, I don't know, driving a car. So going to a driving school to learn that would be that, or riding a cycle, or anything that can foster some sort of confidence can help. Or say if I feel like I doubt myself because I don't feel confident to speak on stage, participate in that. And whilst you're doing that, of course it's going to be super scary to do that. It's not easy. You're going to be your own cheerleader, encouraging yourself. So your inner child is going to get scared, and the inner parent is going to be like, hey, you know what, you can do it. Hey Dreamal, you're going to be fine. I'm right here with you. Let's do this together. So that is the dialogue that'll be there between my inner child and my inner parent.
Yeah. So I just would like to give one, example. So I have had a colleague who used to, tell me that in 2-3 times in a day, she would literally ask like, hi, like for example, I'm Neha. So hi Neha, how are you doing? So when I heard it for the very first time, I found it odd. But then when I, went deeper into it with my circumstances, and it felt so soothing and therapeutic that, you are taking care of your own self, and you are being so independent that you are not relying on somebody else to have a sneak peek in your day that how you are doing it, and you are cutting down on the expectations. So you are fulfilling your own self without having dependence on others, and it can be with parents or anybody through because of whom we would have a childhood trauma. So self-parenting works with whichever relationship we would have had damage.
It does not matter what has caused the damage. Self-parenting works in a way for you to rebuild yourself.
Yes.
So the idea is for you to parent yourself, or be that higher authority for yourself that your inner child needed. Not for yourself, for your inner child, being the higher authority for being that, for that inner child in you. So you're going to help yourself kind of take care of these traumas and heal them within yourself.
So to keep conversing with your inner child as an inner parent.
Yes.
For anything that you feel scared about or you feel anxious about.
I think one of the things that I end up feeling a lot, and I think I'm a work in progress about this, is not feeling good enough. So I have to keep telling myself, like literally there's a dialogue within myself that happens multiple times that, hey, you know what? Sorry. You did this right. You made it to work today after a really, really bad day or a really bad whatever. You still went to work.
You showed up.
You socialize, and sometimes like there are days that I have had which have been really tough to socialize, and if I make it, I'm constantly cheerleading myself and like I'm patting myself on the inside. And I think that's what's helping me feel better about myself. So I guess exactly what you said, like keep checking in with yourself more frequently in the day, and keep talking to yourself, knowing what you feel, and then addressing that as opposed to dismissing it. A lot of times we just end up ignoring it. But here we're being more mindful and conscious about addressing it and not just letting it go.
So thank you for talking about something wherein we would have the gap, and it's important that we fill it rather than we ignore it.
Yes, absolutely. Why not, right?
And that's how we are in the pursuit of being whole or the complete with our own self.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So here we are going to understand how to deal with generational trauma, and for that we'll be doing an experiment.
This experiment actually has water, and we're gonna need a little bit of ink and a few glasses and a jar of water for that. So, this is, say, my grandparents.
Okay.
When we're born, we're all pure.
Yes.
There is no trauma, there's nothing. We're pure souls, full of love. And then we get a little bit of trauma. I had somebody called them a name. They had to deal with a lot of things. And that's the trauma that they're dealing with.
That's
Grandparents. Now, this is, I'm going to use the tub to prevent the spilling. Sorry. So this is the parent. Again, parent is born with a lot of love, very pure.
They might have some of the parental trauma, so they become that, and their own trauma.
Yeah, about the
Circumstances, I'm not good enough, their
relationships. Yeah.
everything. So that's the parent. And this is me. Oh, sorry.
But that's fine, that's fine.
Sorry.
It would anyway
This
change.
is my own trauma, but I am born out of pure love, again, like here. And so I've got my own parental trauma and the generational trauma from my parents and my own traumas. So the ink is going to be that. Now, my own children will also be pure of love and all of that in this. And they're going to get their own traumas and trauma from me. But if I want to break the cycle, what I can do is take care of my own traumas, heal my own traumas. And the way I do that is a lot of self-work, understand my needs, stop blaming, forgiving. The water from this jar is all the work that we're doing.
Positivity.
It's all the positive that I'm pouring in and the healing that I'm causing from within. I might go into therapy, work stuff out, and I'm going to keep doing that, keep rebuilding, draw boundaries, and I'm going to keep working on myself until I'm as good as healed.
It's almost.
That's the idea. So I'm going to dedicate my life to doing exactly that, and I'm not going to stop. And the minute I do that, I'm just doing one part, and that's almost like clear water.
Yeah.
My child will not have to deal with it.
But that would require a lot of work.
Yes, and a lot of awareness and a lot of mindfulness. But that's the only way to break generational trauma.
The boundaries, the self-conversation.
And a lot of boundaries too. A lot of boundaries, like placing healthy boundaries, not just healthy boundaries.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Treemal, for being with us today in Teen to 30s podcast and in our The Conscious Edit series. You have made us understand about so many concepts in the easier way and making us all feel so happy and lighter towards the end. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me. The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you.